Welcome to Friday Night Lights Overtime here in week number 4. She's Chelsea Brown, I'm Jack Leto, and a lot to get to, Chelsea. We had a lot was riding on this game. Battle of the Boot between West and City High.
Right, rivalry game, of course. I mean, you have a trophy, so I mean, and it's just a long-standing rivalry game.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so good, and that's what makes it a battle all the time, you know?
They spent all year waiting for this game. Why don't we run some highlights? We'll see. This is Morgan Hawk. We'll get to those highlights in just a second. Here they come. City High taking the 40-39 win, and this got dramatic at the end. City High coming in with a 1-2 record, West 2-1. But you got to remember, with that City High record, a little deceiving because one of those losses came to Joliet Catholic in Illinois. And this game was just back and forth. I really like the way they were just opening up the playbook. Doesn't matter. Look at the highlights. I mean, you're just going left and right with these plays. Dominic Salibi, number 1 for City High, was the star who made this big play at the end. Here, the City High touchdown. That's Salibi just jumping over. And then the 2-point conversion just works out to perfection. That's that incredible concentration by Jack Lampy in the back of the end zone to pull down that play. And John, we can exit out of this video if we can, because we'll get to that interview with Morgan and Dom in just a second. But how about the way City High was able to fight back after that 0-2 start to their season? How about Mitch Moore calling that play to go for
well, that doesn't surprise me.
Not at all? Doesn't surprise you?
No, never. They're full. They have a very full bag of tricks over there at City High. I've seen them pull them out a couple of times before. But to see them fight for that, they had to. I mean, this was such a back and forth game. But just like you said, the Joliet Catholic and then Iowa City Liberty, who handed both of these teams loss too. I mean, those are two very tough teams, but those were even going up against Iowa City Liberty, both West and City High. They were two very good teams. You know, I just don't want to diminish that those were 3 very good teams out there in Iowa City. And so it doesn't surprise me that this one kind of came down to the final minutes.
Yeah, and when you have West, who got in there, they got really close to winning the game with a field goal, but came up a little bit short. That team has a lot of talent at 2-2. I'm not saying they're going to run the table, but they have a lot of talent, led by the junior star Julian Manson, as well as Mason Woods, the senior wide receiver. They are really solid. But this is City High's night to celebrate. So why don't we toss it over to Morgan Hawk, who has an interview with one of the stars of the game, Dominic Salibi.
And City High held on to win 40-39. We're here with Dom Salibi of City High. Back and forth, offense up and down the field. What was it like out there for you?
Yeah, I would say, the first half, it was just we were struggling stopping Juju and Mason. And then after half, we figured it out. And that was kind of the key to winning this game.
It was you that got the touchdown that got City within 1 at the end, and then the decision to go for 2. Did you have any doubt your coach is going to keep the offense out on the field?
No doubt in Bobby Bacon. He'll make the plays happen, for sure.
And then on defense, you guys got the stop when you needed to there at the end.
Right. Yeah, it's just our D-line is great. Our corners are getting better, and we're really coming together as a team now.
3 straight wins in this series. What's that like for City High?
It's great. 365 days a year, that's all we think about is playing West, you know what I mean? So to come out here and beat them, it's just a great feeling.
You get the win tonight, 40-39. City beats West here in Iowa City. Back to you.
That's a fun rivalry because it has all these little streaks. There was a point in the early 2000s where it was all West, and these City High kids remember growing up and seeing a bunch of losses. They want to put their foot on the gas pedal. I like what Dom said about the 365 days. We're thinking about beating West.
Right. And I like his confidence, too, for the 2-point conversion. That was obviously a big game changer in this game. But at the same time, to know that they have this confidence, that's going to carry them through the rest of the season, especially on a play like that.
When you got a strong head coach and a strong quarterback, senior Bobby Bacon, who you saw Dom shout out, you can win a lot of games. Let's check some of the scores we could not quite get to. Pull up the 6-box right here. Starmont big over East Buchanan. Starmont coming off the loss to North Lynn, so they're 3-1. Clear Creek Amana with a win on the road over Benton. That stands out. In the battle of 3-0 teams, Decorah with a 21-14 win at home over Independence. West Branch gets their second win under John Nestor over Cascade. There we go, 35-13. Williamsburg big over Fort Madison, and checking then on that Union game after their tragedy last week. It's really nice to see them out on the field and paying tribute to Gavin Rohrbach, who sadly passed away last week. Independence and Decorah, that's kind of the one that stands out to me. I think one of those teams, perhaps both, can find their way into the Dome. I like the way Starmont bounced back after their loss last week. Any of these scores, anything about these scores standing out to you?
Williamsburg putting up 67. What?
I mean, coming off their loss to Xavier.
Right, but at the same time, we know this is a talented team. You know, this is a team that was at the Dome, obviously, that won at the Dome. We know that they're going to be talented, but it just seems like things have kind of picked up where they left off last year.
Yeah, I would say so. Williamsburg, with all the talent to get back to the Dome. All right, why don't we move on to one of your games, Mount Vernon Solon, Highway 1 rivalry. And if you like defense, you liked this game. Solon coming out with the Army, well, I was about to say the Army, it's really the Spartan uniforms they've got here with the shield. Solon comes out with Eddie Johnson, their running back, who is just so good with the ball in his hands.
He just powers through players. He did it all night long, too, just running them over. That is what you want your back to do. He did that, just that.
Guys kind of fall off of him, and that's the sign of a good accelerator, a good power running back. Love seeing those Solon fans out there. Mount Vernon putting up 6. I mean, Brad Meester's not going to be happy about that, but Solon's defense is much improved. I saw them against Clear Creek Romana. They held them to 0 through the first 2 quarters. And when you get sacks like that, when you can put pressure on the opposing quarterback with 4 or 5, sometimes 3 guys.
Check out this play. Watch the boink, boink, boink,
boink, boink, boink. There it goes. Nice interception.
I mean, that's just unlucky there. But it also just shows how talented both of these defenses are. I do want to mention that. And talking with Solon head coach Lucas Stanton before the game, he said this game was going to be won in the trenches. It was, you know what I mean? It was one in the trenches. These were teams coming into this game, I do want to say, both undefeated, okay, both ranked within the top 3. I think Solon 1, Mount Vernon 3. So they're very talented teams, but at the same time, this was going to be a defensive game because they were only allowing like around 8 points from their opponents.
Yes.
Yes, when 2 teams like that good go up against each other, it's not going to be a high-scoring game. We're not going to get the City High, Iowa City West. I mean, it came down to defense. It came down to the battle of the trenches. And I was not there in the second half before, and it sounds like is that Mount Vernon tried to go for that 2-point conversion for the win, didn't get it.
Appreciate the way Brad Meester can just say, let's go for 2. Why not? Highway 1 rivalry game, let's do it. Both of those teams have game breakers that can really get them far in the playoffs. Spartans are now 4-0. You know, don't forget about them, because last year they lost their first game, I remember, to Assumption, went on a huge winning streak before getting to the Dome and losing to Williamsburg. Mount Vernon, Solon, Williamsburg, those 3 rivals in 3A, I mean, those could be 3 of the 4 teams in theory in the Dome. It's not going to happen because of the way the playoff schedules work out, but they all have the talent.
But they've kind of made themselves that. They've kind of settled into that. They've kind of just been competitive these past few years, and they've always kind of been like, which one is going to make it the furthest in the Dome?
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Anamosa and Monticello, a game they play for a cowbell and a picturesque shot. I wonder who took that. I mean, it's a pretty good one. Anamosa with a great student section, by the way. I sometimes like shouting out the visitors student section. It's not, it's 10 miles away, but I love the way Anamosa was able to come out. Austin Scranton, this was basically the Austin Scranton highlight reel, number 26 in white. He is a guy that will get 2 yards a carry for like 10 carries in a row, just get back up. One after another. And eventually he'll break that 5 to 10 yard carry. Monty with a great play here. Conley Schaff, the wide receiver, makes the catch. On this first drive, they missed on this play a couple times. It was really close, but Brady Gogol, the junior quarterback, found his rhythm. But eventually, yes, it's Anamosa, the undefeated Blue Raiders. Even after giving up fumble and punting multiple times in the second quarter, they were able to basically win the field position game such that Monty had to punt to them deep in their own territory, leading to this Austin Scranton touchdown, who I believe, I'd have to double check my stats on this, finished with over 250 yards. And as I mentioned in the highlight reel, he's a state champion wrestler, so he's one of those guys that you'll hit him in the head a couple times, you'll hit him in the chin a couple times, They'll just get back right back up. And Anamosa at 4-0. Best start since 2015. I don't know if there are any Marshall Yandas on that team like there were 20 years ago, but they're pretty talented.
Well, and Monty's going through some growing pains right now. They only have two starters returning from last year's team, obviously, and they lost Preston Reese. He's now at Iowa. He was a guy that literally did it all. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they're just going through some growing pains. They got to figure it out. They got a young quarterback. They got a young line. They have young everything. So they're going to go through some growing pains probably this season.
That connection, Gogol and Shaw for Monticello, are both big guys, both juniors. So that's something to watch out for next year. All right, last game of the night. Why don't we go down to North Liberty, Iowa City Liberty, and Cedar Falls. We've seen a few of these Iowa City Liberty games. And if you want the negative, well, they probably need to shore up their defense. But if you want the positive, and I love the positive, their offense is absolutely scorching. Cedar Falls was able to keep up for quite a while. And I like seeing Cedar Falls. Look at this play. Boom, get in there. Trey Reuter with the reach over the goal line. Oh, that looks nice, spinning the finger. Liberty has just looked so solid on offense. They're incredibly balanced with their two-headed monster of Owen Drapo and Sutton Kohler, those two running backs, but they can drop back and throw it as well. I don't think they want to do it often on first down, but they do it often, or they do throw on second and third down enough to keep the other team honest. I think the only thing really is just to shore up that defense. Cedar Falls, they've got some maulers on the offensive line. Devarian Clark, the 5'6", 194-pounder, sprinting down the sidelines for the touchdown. It was Liberty pulling this one out 49-42, and Liberty's won a few of these close games. I think that's going to serve them well.
I think so too. What was the final?
49-42?
Yeah, a lot of offense.
Yeah.
You know, you talk a little bit about Liberty. They have so many weapons. And then this is a head coach, Scott Chandler. He played offense, right? He likes the offense. He's going to have them. But I will say, you know, Liberty, they're running the ball more this year than they have before. It's working for them. But this is also something that Scott Chandler's been a part of for a few years now, and now is taking over the head coaching role. But, I mean, Cedar Falls, they've been solid for the past few years, too, and just – oof, that run down the sideline, man. That's what you want to see.
Yeah, Cedar Falls has got to be one of the better 2-2 teams in Iowa with the two losses they've had. This one coming on the road, not an easy place to play.
Yeah, they always have a tough schedule, though, too.
Yeah, right? A lot of those 5A teams. But you credit the 5A teams for playing the tough schedule, especially playing the Central Iowa Metro League teams. That's going to serve them well come playoff time. You know, I feel like we're starting to learn about these teams a little bit more, learn more about their identities, especially if we've seen them 3 or 4 times. But we're not even at the midway point in the season. I know 4 games, it feels like it's gone pretty fast, but a lot of these teams, these 1-3 or 2-2 teams, can really turn it around come playoff time. That's the thing about the playoffs. It's not, unless you're a 5A team, it's not incredibly hard to make it. And if you can get yourself on a run, you know, accentuate the positives in your game, then who knows?
I will say, I mean, I have not been everywhere around Eastern Iowa, but the games that I've been to, it's been a lot more clean football.
Yeah,
you know?
I would say so too.
And just like not a lot of takeaways as much, which is good. You know, no coach wants, you know, that to go there, you know, the opposite way. But at the same time, I think that's just a testament to maybe what these programs have built up, especially in Eastern Iowa. And we had a lot of teams, you know, on their way to the state playoffs, to the Dome last year and everything, and they're some of them are picking up where they left off. Some of them are going through some growing pains, like I said. But I mean, that's something that I've noticed out in the field just a little bit.
Yeah. You've got a big game tomorrow. Minnesota and Iowa. You're thinking, what high school game? Yeah, I know a lot of sports fans are watching.
We're not talking about fair catches. We're not talking about any sort of signals. I'm sure Cooper DeJean is probably watching, though.
Oh,
I don't think the Eagles play tomorrow.
No, they played on Monday, and then, yes, they play on Sunday. I'm not going to ask you for a score prediction, but any Hawkeye fans watching, the thing they need to look out for most in that game?
That's a tough question. I mean, what comes to mind first for you?
I got it. think it's running the football. You need Caleb Johnson.
Well, that's a little too easy.
Too easy?
Yeah.
I think Caleb Johnson getting 5 to 6 yards on first down, at least somewhat consistently, is going to really help them out, and it opens things up for Caden McNamara. He needs to be comfortable in the pocket.
Maybe I'll go the route then of the big plays, the defensive big plays. We haven't really seen Iowa give up as many as they have this year, so I think that Minnesota's seen it. You know, PJ Fleck, Kirk Ferentz, they know each other very well. They know each other's style of football. They kind of know what to expect, you know what I mean? But that's a little bit uncharacteristic for Iowa to be giving up some of those big plays. You saw it last week. You saw it against Iowa State. So I think that's going to be a difference maker because I do think PJ Fleck is going to take a shot.
Can Iowa put up the wall and beat Minnesota? Take Floyd back home to Iowa City. All right, that's going to do it for Friday Night Lights End Zone. Week 5 is next week. Same time, same place next week.